The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Gloves Are Off. I'm Moses Woldu. We got a great show for you. Of course, we have some great guests and my co-host as well, Andrew Brethauer. How's it going, buddy?
I am great. I'm doing great, actually. Finally. Finally.
Things are looking up for
I think
you.
I've been a depressing guy for a month. Now I'm actually happy today.
This is not, well, you know what? Let's not kill the ratings. I think the more...
They're there. Don't worry.
Okay,
they're there.
You're going to bring it on, at least for the next half hour.
Across Canada.
Okay, perfect. We appreciate that. Also appreciate the time when you come on. Chris King, of course, the women's basketball head coach for the Lakeland College Rustlers. Did a fantastic job so far. Perfect 10-0. Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on something.
I'm not going to try to jinx you, but a fantastic start for a team that has great depth, and we're pleased to have you on.
Yeah, excited to be here, and really good first semester so far. We got a little bit to finish up here.
All right. Well, we'll get to that later on in the show, but I want to talk about the topics we have at hand. And of course, much like you guys, and I'm sure the viewers out there at home, there's plenty of people that play fantasy sports, whether it be hockey, football, baseball, you name it, it's all there. The difference, however, is what's happened over, I guess, the last few years with daily fantasy. You have FanDuel and DraftKings come out, I won't say out of the woodwork, but they've emerged in recent memory and have turned into billion-dollar industries. Yeah. Now you have an attorney general from New York saying, you know what, this is illegal gambling. And of course, there's been protests from both companies, like FanDuel and DraftKings, saying it's actually more skill than you might think. What do you guys say? And I'll start with you, Chris. Is daily fantasy a skill or is it gambling?
It's definitely gambling, but there's skill involved in it. It's a real gray area. I think it's so hugely popular across Canada and the U.S., but I think it should be legalized. I don't know why it wouldn't. People gamble on sports all the time. So daily fantasy is just an extension of the regular fantasy that people started playing, I think.
What's your fantasy record this year? How you doing?
Well, I'm in second place, my group.
That's a lie.
What are you talking about? That is perfect. I have 38 wins in my fantasy in hockey. I'm better than you right now.
Let's talk about your football.
My football team? All I know is I am like the Houston Texans. All we need to do is finish in first place, and I have it on lock.
As far as the topic I had.
That's good.
It's gambling. We know it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's
illegal gambling.
It's illegal.
Change that. Is it illegal?
It's kind of like, and I was watching this yesterday. It's like poker. It's exactly like poker. Poker's a game of skill, and it's also, we know it's gambling. If you don't think it's gambling, you're an idiot. There's no other way around it. You're an idiot if you think this. And this is the same thing. You're betting tons of money, a lot of money for some of these guys, on risking something you have no control over. That's basically the definition of gambling. I don't know how, I think it should be something legal. Like we allow poker, we allow blackjack, we allow all that online. Why not allow something like this? It's entertainment.
But the fear is, you look how embedded they are with sports, not just necessarily with the networks, which they are, but I'm talking about teams specifically. And you got to think, if you're going to associate yourself as they do, that's going to be detrimental to your team, because sports betting, obviously, it's a big no-no, right? So that's how it's got to be. Or am I wrong by saying that?
I don't think you're wrong. I think that the big thing that came up out of this was insider betting, right? This is how everything started to spiral down for daily fantasies, when FanDuel guys were betting on DraftKings and winning all the major pools, which is kind of like collusion, and that kind of started this train wreck through daily fantasy. So it's really tough. You're never going to get away from it, and you're never going to have people that don't have inside knowledge on who's playing and who's not playing.
So then it involves more so skill then?
I would say there's a chunk of skill. End of the day, you are gambling your money.
Like when I'm sitting there, when I go to pick my team, you probably do it too. Everyone puts a little bit of time before they go and draft their team.
A lot of time.
Yeah, probably more than we want to admit we put into drafting these teams. And the other interesting fact is the fact, if you look at Vegas, they don't allow sports betting on Vegas teams in Vegas. You can't go for NCAA, hockey, any of that stuff in Vegas. So why is the NFL getting in bed with these people? You seem like you'd want to separate that conflict of interest. Vegas does it. They're gambling, but this isn't. So I think that you're walking a tightrope here if you put that.
All right, guys, let's move on to what was considered the kick scene and felt around the world. In Australia, UFC 193, you had Ronda Rousey defeated by the underdog Holly Holm, 20-1 odds for her to win. Speaking of betting, you should put money on Holly Holm. What do you make of this? Does this help or hurt the UFC, Andrew?
I think it really helps him. And I say that because I'm a believer that Ronda Rousey didn't have any competition, and that you can't really sell that division as being great because she was dominating everybody. And I know we want to say that she's a great athlete, but you're compared to the athletes you face. That's how you become great. She's destroying everybody. So what are we saying about the division? Now we have someone who comes up and can beat her. So now that division, I think, is getting some more, I guess, a lot more clout because it's getting more people actually interested. There's actual competition now.
Yeah, and especially with her boxing background, right? It brings a legitimate side to the women's UFC.
Home, you're referring to.
Yeah, home, yeah. And I think that it just makes that sport's going to jump to a whole nother level, and I think they're going to attract more young females into the sport now there's just not one female dominating it.
But don't you think it's going to hurt in the, I guess, maybe the short term, considering that you have their golden calf? She's generated so much money. When you look at Ronda Rousey and what she's done, she's going to be the lone athlete, the first ever female that will be alone on a cover for an EA Sports game. That's got to be, if you're Dana White, you got to be just like, oh, this is not good news for my sport.
But the second, when they fight again, it's going to be unbelievable press, and it's going to pump it up even more. If she wins that, then it shows she's at another
All's
level.
well with the world. Okay, well, nothing's really all well with the Denver Broncos. They lost 2 straight now. They're 7-2. I don't think that's so much the issue. Their defense has been great. What has been the underlying theme throughout the season is the inconsistency of Peyton Manning. Got plantar fasciitis, will be out next week. Are we seeing with looks like a bum arm, a guy can't throw like he used to, the issues with the offense? Is Peyton Manning's career over?
Yeah, this is it. This is the last year that we're going to see Peyton out there. From watching him when he was younger to now, it's not the same guy. He's still really smart at the line, audibles a lot, makes good checkdowns, but it's not the same guy, and it scares me where Denver's going to be with Peyton coming into playoffs.
And this isn't what we wanted to see. You wanted to see Peyton go out on top, and to see him kind of go out this way, it doesn't really put anything like make his career look bad. It's just not the way you expected Peyton Manning, the greatness that he is, to go out. You really wish he almost kind of went out 2 years ago after the Super Bowl and kind of called it then. But yeah, this isn't my biggest problem. If the backup comes in and plays great, he's done. Career's over, because you're going to move on from that. You have to move on from that. He's not the same Peyton Manning anymore. If he doesn't, and Manning can come back and salvage the rest of the season, hopefully he's done after this year.
Front office job.
Yeah.
They'll give him a front office job or something.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, we're going to talk about basketball and Steph Curry. Is he the next Michael Jordan? We'll hear from them coming up.